This is Eastmans Elevated podcast. I have on great guests that are really knowledgeable, consistently successful. We're able to dive deep down the rabbit holes of these different subject matters of shooting, of physical fitness, of mental toughness and drive. All the different skills that make up a complete hunter that you can become.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Got a brand new Eastmans Elevated for you. So on today's podcast, I have a couple of my friends on from Hawaii. So they just came over and spent 3 weeks hunting elk in the Wyoming backcountry. And so I get them on for a podcast before they have to catch a plane the next day and head home. But they just had this wild adventure. So it's my buddies, Craig Hales and then Lonnie Boekman. And both just really good guys, really good bow hunters, and they have great insight into finding elk, getting close to elk, as they've just spent every bit of their effort trying to arrow one of these bulls in Wyoming. So made for a great podcast. I really enjoyed it. I know you guys will enjoy it too, and we'll get right into it. I just want to thank a couple sponsors. I want to thank Savage Arms. So Savage builds the best out-of-the-box accurate rifles on the planet. I'm so impressed by the groups of these rifles. It just doesn't take long to get them sighted in. They seem to get along with all different ammo types, and they have a bunch of different models. So they have models that are budget models that are great shooting rifles, all the way up to their 110 ultralight, which we like in the office, which is a super lightweight synthetic stock rifle. And those synthetic stocks are really nice as they don't warp or bend or bow. They also seem to hide scratches or dings really well and look like the day you bought them. So these rifles also have an Accu trigger, so it'll adjust the trigger pull, so you don't have to take it to a gunsmith to lighten up that trigger to get a more accurate shooting rifle. They also have the Accu stocks, which you can adjust the length of pull due to your arm length or your height. That way, that rifle fits you perfectly, and also the comb height, so it fits your face, so you can really get seated into the rifle and make accurate shots. So impressed by these rifles. I have one built up that that I really like, and we'll be using it for wolves this winter, and also have it in the truck as a backup. So, they just build great rifles, and really impressed. So if you're in the market for a new one, make sure to go check them out over at Savage. I also want to thank Swagger Bipods. Swagger Bipods build really accurate bipods. So shooting really well with a rifle is all about having a good rest, and you couldn't get a better one with Swagger. They have a bunch of different models, a bunch of different heights of bipods, all the way so you can shoot from a standing or kneeling or from a sitting position. Also, they have bench-made ones. They make a quick release on it, so you don't have to carry the weight of the bipod on the end of your rifle. You can carry it on your hip and connect it when you get close. They also have shooting sticks. And why their bipods and shooting sticks work so well, especially their bipods, they're spring tension loaded. And so you can adjust the length of each bipod leg, but then you can also swivel it so you can put it out in front of you. It just makes shooting on steep uphill and downhill or side hill angles. It makes for like tracking your target really well. If, say, that bull starts walking to the right or walking to the left, you can swivel on that bipod, which is different than all other bipods out there. They're really high quality, and again, just make for really accurate shooting, having that really good rest. So if you're in the market for new bipod shooting sticks, make sure to check out Swagger. I also want to thank Black Ovis. Black Ovis is an internet retail shop that has absolutely everything you need for your next hunt. You can save 10% off your order with Elevated 10. You can save 20% off your order if you're a Tag Hub Elite member. So 20% off an order is crazy. But you can save that money in there, and the Elevated 10 promo code, you don't have to be a Tag Hub member. You just save 10% off the top. And they have all the top name brands as well as their own name brand, which is high quality. So if you're in the market for any hunting gear, just go on and save 10%. See if they have what you want. See if you can save a little bit of money and get some great gear from a great company. And thanks to Black Ovis for their support of the podcast. I also want to thank Camo Fire. Camo Fire is an app where they have 80 new hunting deals that come up every 24 hours. You can save a pile of money on really good gear that's overstock or highly discounted. And man, I know my buddies save some money on this gear that comes up, and they find some really good stuff in there. So you can check that out. Just download the app Camo Fire. And with that, over at Eastmans, we're just cruising along here. I've been writing a ton for the magazines, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal. You can get a subscription to those. We also have Tag Hub as we're going to start to get into tag application season. We've revamped our Tag Hub with interactive mapping and just ease of use, and so we call it our Tag Hub 2.0. Really help you learn these states and opportunities that are available out there. So you can get that, as well as our mule deer course. You want to learn to be a better mule deer hunter, take our mule deer course. I poured my heart and soul into it. 25 years of hunting mule deer, might even be 30 now. But 25 years experience. Dan Picar is on there, Guy Eastman. We've gone through and tried to put together the most comprehensive resource for hunting mule deer to learn all different seasons, different weapon types, and different habitats. So you can get that, the mule deer course. Just put in the promo code BrianMDC. That'll also get you a free MagView Digiscope, which I believe are the best ones out there. It's what I've been using to capture my digiscoping. So yeah, you get a free one of those, MagView, with that promo code. And man, check out our Beyond the Grid episodes. We just had an episode drop with Ike Eastman, and a couple episodes of mine on there from last year, a couple episodes of Dan's. And man, I just got to finish up, got to get some films made here for this year. It's going to be pretty bleak. I got that goat hunt that I filmed, which will be really cool. And man, the elk hunt, we filmed it, lost my cameraman, shot the kill sequence on a GoPro. I'm not quite sure if it's going to make a film or be good enough, but yeah, just got to keep pushing here for late season mule deer. In fact, I'm going to go this weekend, and super stoked about that. So get out and do a little bit more bow hunting and see if I can create a film here so I have something to release for next year. But check out the Beyond the Grids. There's some great episodes on there. And man, with that, yeah, let's get on this podcast. So Craig Hales also runs a podcast, and you can check that out. I've been on a couple episodes last year when I was red deer hunting down there. It's called Aussie Camp Down Under. Gosh, I got to get this right. I'll get it right on the outro. I've listened to it. It's a really good podcast. So those guys have been doing a good job there. So you can check that out as well. And with that, let's get into this podcast. So my friends Craig Hales, Lonnie Boekman, both outstanding bow hunters and great human beings. And yeah, they're just getting finished up with this Wyoming bow hunt. And so we're going to recap that and talk over some elk hunting. I'm your host, Brian Barney, Eastmans Elevated. Here we go.
Oh, I might have to get comfortable. I might fall asleep.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Late night one. Well, yeah, man, I'm glad we were able to sit down, get you guys on live. Lonnie has been so good. Like, we met in Australia, and then good to see you in person. And then Greg, we've become good friends like over the last handful of years, and nice to see you out here again. I think my only regret was you guys went so hard. You had Wyoming tags this year, and I wasn't able to join along with you. It sounded like a riot.
You had your own things happening, so.
Yeah, I was definitely hunting elk for sure. Yeah, it was good around here too. Yeah. It was fun.
That was good. It was. Oh, it's been in the works. So Wyoming had been in the works for me for quite a few years. So I had quite a lot of points built up. We're meant to have a pretty big crew coming this year. So, but as life and those kind of things get in your way, a few boys had to change their plans. So, but Lonnie was keen to spend his Wyoming points, and I dropped mine in there too to make sure that we did draw, and we probably dropped a few people out because we had quite a few points going in. So
yeah, so you had saved up a bunch of points and then put in for an easier tag so you could get all four guys, and you're starting to get quite a bit of experience here in the States. Like, you hunt a bunch in Australia, but you've been coming over now for years and harvested some really good bulls. And then, like, I love how you guys did it, how you had never been to these places, and you just showed up for 3 weeks and try to figure it out, man. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's what, obviously it's a big commitment from home. Obviously it's not just us. We have plenty of family and wives and children back home to thank. But, without the 3 weeks, or probably even longer, honestly, we could go for another week, but or two, especially at the moment. But
change that flight.
Yeah.
For another 3 weeks.
No doubt.
But yeah, I'll be pretty open. I had 8 points. Lonnie had 4.
Uh-huh.
I knew that Lonnie at 4 probably wouldn't draw. We drew the general tag in Wyoming, so it's something that I'd probably already skipped past. I probably didn't consider the general tag, obviously, because I was in the higher point range.
Mm-hmm.
But when I looked at how sort of Wyoming's, draw system works and potentially what I could draw, I don't know whether I ever would have caught the curve. There was a couple of units that I was looking for, but I'm a people person. It's Lonnie's first trip, his first elk hunt, and I probably wasn't going to miss that. If I was sitting down in a unit on my own doing a solo thing and, having these guys at that time, there was a group of us coming, and I don't think I was going to miss out on that. So that's sort of how it came about, and a couple of guys just, had to pull out for personal reasons, and before the draw was finalised. So Lonnie and I made the plan, and obviously annoyed you to, we'll pretty much host this, really.
Man.
So.
No, it's not annoying me.
But,
It's be able to home base out of here, and then you guys took off. I haven't seen you for weeks, man. You guys have been going for it. Lonnie, your first trip to the States, man, how awesome was it chasing elk?
Yeah, just unbelievable. Like, way more than I could have ever have hoped for. Like I said to you, I've been dreaming about these landscapes since I was a little kid, and like well before I even got into hunting. So to come over and just witness those, see elk do their thing, and all the other animals that come with it, it's just been a ride. And yeah, honestly can't thank. I mean, I'm not up to date with the whole tag system and how it works. I'm slowly figuring it out. Mm-hmm. But with Craig and guys like yourself, and I'm just really thankful to be able to come over and do this. It just means the world. Yeah, and we just went for it too.
Oh,
we
guys
left
did.
Nothing in the tank whatsoever.
Good for you. That's the way to hunt.
We crushed it.
Yeah. It's like, it's not easy over here, and it's a testament to like your guys' hunting skill. Like, you guys hunt so much back in Australia and go on these adventures, and also just a testament to Craig, like all your research. Like, there's guys in the States that don't know the States and the draws and the units as well as you do. Like, you've really dedicated yourself to like learning these systems over here, and then coming over here each and every year, investing your time and energy. And like you say, you've got families and work, and then it's really important to you to get out here and have these adventures and this reset. And so man, you've just been going crazy out here, and especially like the last couple of years, like hunting Montana last year, Wyoming, and I just like, man, I am so impressed with your knowledge, but also your guys' ability to figure it out. Like, it's not easy to just, like, you guys had hardly any leads on Wyoming or no real solid information, and just went to go figure it out and spend your time and your energy. And you guys did. You guys chased bulls and bugles, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah. We got into them, and unfortunately, spoiler alert, neither of us were lucky enough to cut a tag on an elk, but I mean, we both had instances there where we both passed up bulls. We both had something in our mind where we wanted to hit, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't happen. But it didn't stop us from crushing every single day, daylight, dark to dark, really, and sometimes well beyond dark too. But just an awesome adventure, really, at the end of the day.
When you did pass some bulls, Craig, you're turning into quite the bull snob, looking for a big shooter.
I feel like I'm on repeat from last year, to be honest with you. But, look, we all know, everyone that chases elk knows how much is involved with pack outs and, those kind of things. Us getting trophies home and that kind of thing it's a full-on deal. And to me, as much as it's hard at the time to, I guess realise that you potentially it's not going to take an elk or whatever it is, but I come over here with something in mind. I've got a vision. Like, I think you asked me before I left, what are you chasing? And I said, just something that really pops. I just want that bull that goes, yeah, he's a good one. It doesn't have to be a certain score or anything like that. Like, it's just one that gets you at the moment. And, you'll let an arrow fly. And if it wasn't for a few aspens at it about 3 or 4 or 5 times. But look, it's one of them things. Like, my elk journey started in 2013. So I did 2013, 2014. And then I did 2016, 2017. It was Alaska in 18, Nevada deer in 19. Then COVID hit, so that kind of buggered us a little bit there for a couple of years. And then obviously I was back with you guys here last year. And, my mindset hasn't changed. I just want to harvest a mature animal. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that happen, when you do harvest one. And, we learnt pretty quickly and I learned this a long time ago, those big mature bulls, we talk all the time, they don't come easy. I passed 10 bulls, so for the 3 weeks I had an opportunity to shoot 10 different elk. But, they weren't the ones that I wanted. They were, young fives or raghorns or whatever they might have been. There was a pretty funky fella about 3 or 4 days in. I think he was a big old bull.
You showed me a video of him, pretty heavy.
I think I showed, we ran into some awesome people. Like, I've just got to say, like, I guess the hospitality that we received in Wyoming from every single person that we stopped and talked to. I don't know whether it's just our accent or what, but look, we just couldn't thank everyone enough across the board that either had a bit of conversation with you or shared a bit of information. There was a lot of deer hunters at the time because the deer season opened up midway through our hunt, and we'd help out where we could if we'd seen some bucks or deer or where we thought some might be hanging. But I think that was the biggest thing. It was just all together. And when I showed a few photos or videos to a few of these guys that were archery hunting elk, I think they wanted to do me in because they just thought I was silly. But it's...
But that's the thing as well. Like, I guess there's probably a lot of guys out there wouldn't understand that we can't take the meat back to Australia. We don't have that option. So for us to come over here, it's not so much of a meat hunt. It's more of a trophy antler hunt. So... when Craig says that he passed up 10 bulls, that's probably the reason why, because that's going to be the gift to him to take out of the mountain will be the antlers. Whereas, I'm sure if you were hunting for meat,
we were done in the first couple of days if we were able to, if we were feeding our families here locally or. We obviously had plans to what we're going to do with the meat. We had some local people to you, Brian, that we would have helped out. There was plenty of camps and that I'm sure that would have gladly received the meat and things like that. It would have been used. So we're certainly not going to waste, but
100%.
we do come with a different mindset. So it is about the trophy, and we're very proud of that. It's that chase, and
that's it.
It's we had some moments this few weeks. I'm learning a lot. Like, after last year, I made, if anyone's listened to the podcast of Brian's from last year, I made several pretty rookie mistakes really from last year. But this year I was super proud. I hunted a lot more patient, a lot fitter. We pushed ourselves. We did, I think we did, there was a couple of days there. I think the biggest day we did was 18 mile in a day. We weren't expecting to do that, but we probably would have packed in if we had known that was going to happen. But we've got plenty of people to thank. They know who they are if they listen to this, that helped us out. Yourself, Brian, had a couple of marks from your deer hunting. I had another buddy that sort of, give us some marks in another area further south. We went down there. I guess this is where it gets into the tactics and, how we sort of were feeling and the flows of emotions as we got down into some other country that was a lot thicker, big, steep, sort of, deep country, but no glassing country, no real stalking country, a lot of deadfall. I'm sick of that word.
Yeah, and we're not callers, and we're not.
And we're not callers.
It's
take
not
a leaf out of your book, Brian. Prefer to stalk, prefer to be a little bit unknown. Although I must say, look, a lot of the elk that would, that I did pass up were called because we were getting into that kind of country. They were hanging up in a lot of the darker timber areas, and they were quiet. So we only spent a few days in that kind of country, a lot of miles in between on the truck, but we realised that probably it would have performed. There's no question. So we started hunting on the 8th or 9th of September.
I think the 8th.
I think was our first session. We were down there around that 10th, 11th, 12th. And then we all know that really things really didn't start kicking off till, the 16th? I think we were about the same day, I think, Brian.
Yep.
I think I went 10 or 12 days before I heard my first bugle.
Yeah. It was tough. It was a tough week. And the reports were that Wyoming in general was tough. It was a very, very slow start. It was still quite warm. No evening hunts. There was not a bugle. There was no action. There was nothing every afternoon at every single elk camp we spoke to. And I believe there was a few other areas. I think Idaho's running the same gun at the moment as well. But there was just no afternoon hunting. It was just, unless you were right on a bull within 100 yards that you'd picked up, there was nothing. There was no going out waiting for him to come out on the meadows feeding. That just wasn't happening. So we actually kind of nearly cut our hunt in half because we were only really getting morning sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it really difficult because you didn't know where to stay in the spot or not. So we stayed in this southern country only for a few days. We realised that it wasn't our type of country that we wanted hunted. We knew that it would fight in there for sure, but we thought that we would get back to country that we felt better in, which we can sort of bring our Aussie hunting sort of styles back, and just going back to something that we feel a little bit more comfortable about.
Yeah, I think
Comfortable. They're big mountains.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't comfortable as far as the physicality of it, but
No, it was. You guys did great. But yeah, big mountains, more open parks with timber that you could see them and stalk them. Is that right, Lonnie?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The vision I had before I came over was that type of country that we ended up in. Like Craig mentioned, like the country that was further south wasn't really what I'd pictured. And with the lack of noise, it just wasn't really the plays that we were sort of really hoping for. Like, I got no doubt that further into the rut, they would have made a little bit of noise and we could have made something happen there. But both Craig and I just thought it was a wiser decision to play to our strengths and get back up into that country that we're probably a bit more familiar with, and using the strategies that we sort of utilise at home to hunt our deer. So,
and we didn't mention, like, obviously the hunting pressure. It was the general tag. There's going to be hunting pressure. We know that, but it was probably a little bit more excessive down there because there's limited access roads, and there was wilderness down there too, which kind of probably made it a little bit harder for ourselves because obviously we can't, as non-residents, we can't hunt in that. Mm-hmm. So that kind of pushed a lot of the non-resident hunters into kind of the same area. So that made it a little bit difficult.
Makes sense.
So we, I guess by the 11th or 12th, I think we'll back up north. So
I just love how all in you guys are. It's, I just think that this is like a part of paying your elk dues, and you guys are great bow hunters that are really successful. And I know that's the goal when you come over here, is to arrow a big mature herd bull, and that's what we're excited about. And we all, like me included, I set lofty goals for the season, but then you get there and it's just extremely difficult. But you guys didn't lose your faith in the process at all. You guys have been paying your dues. Like, there's a lot of shortcuts you could take, or not even shortcuts, but just to, you could go to a private ranch or something like that, but you guys choose to hunt this public ground, these draw tags, and they're not draw tags that are 20-point tags. Like you say, they're low point units, and you guys just come over here, pay your dues, go all in for 3 weeks, and give maximum effort every single day. And you talked also about the hospitality. And I think the hospitality, like, it's karma. You get out of this world what you put into it. Here you guys are out, you're friendly, you talk to everybody. I know you told me a story, you walked out on a dad and a son when you were hiding in your truck because you had slept in a little bit. But you walked up on a dad and a son, and they were hunting, and you could have gone right by them and chased bugles, and instead you went up the steep ridge side next to them. Like, you're giving guys their space as well. And so guys are just returning that favor to you, or you're sharing information about deer. Guys are opening up at where they're seeing elk, or all these examples of you guys going in to eat at a restaurant and being friendly and talking to the host, and then talking back to you and being friendly. So I think, like, you get out of this world what you put in. So I think that's like a lot of the good karma that you guys have got getting along with guys on these hunts and things. But man, I just love your commitment level. Like, over here for 3 weeks, come over here, get a rig, you load up everything you need and coolers, and you're just doing it the same way all of us blue collar guys are doing. And all of us have to spend this time in the Elk Mountains, like not only honing our craft of bow hunting, which you guys are dialed in, but like chasing a specific species in this different habitat, And so I really feel like you guys are paying your dues, and also shooting for these really mature herd bulls. Like I know how difficult it is. All my buddies know how difficult it is. Like it's this supreme challenge, but you guys don't get weighted down by that, or you don't, you just carry this attitude of like, yeah, I know it's going to be tough and I expect that and I want that challenge. And you guys went out all in on this place. You moved around different locations, kept yourself into elk, heard bugles, had close calls, and then to come back and you guys are dang near as satisfied as if you killed 2 big herd bulls. You guys are like, man, we had the adventure.
That's exactly right. And I think I'm pretty safe to speak for Craig in this instance, but we don't want it to be easy. We want the struggle. That's why we bow hunt. You know what I mean? Like, we want the challenge. We want it to be hard. We want it to be drawn out to the last dying minutes. Like the blow down that you got to crawl through and climb over and trip over and slip, and the muscles that you probably never would ever use in a gym. Like, we want the struggle of, trekking through the snow and the rain and being wet to the bone and freezing cold, and the getting back to the truck at 11:30 and having no water for the most part of the day. Like, we want those struggles. It just makes it that much more rewarding when you get that bull of a lifetime or a deer of a lifetime or whatever it is that you're out there chasing, you know what I mean? So for us to not cut our tag on this particular hunt, there is so many other aspects that we just crushed and that we get to take home and be a better person for it. Like, again, I'm sure I speak for Craig here as well, but we will leave here better people than when we arrived. You know what I mean? Stronger people, better people. We'll go back to our families and we'll slide back into work, and we'll be better for it, for the sacrifices that we've had to make over the last 3 weeks. So
there's just something, obviously there's a lot of downtime in elk hunting and a lot of miles that we drove, so we had a lot of time we had some very random conversations at times. But, there's a lot
My fault.
There's both we're equally to blame. There's a lot of deep and meaningful conversations that are hard, but I think the big one is that, it's amazing what, in this instance it's elk, and I don't think there would probably is too many. I can't speak for sheep hunting because I've never done that, but there wouldn't be too many things that in life, I play a lot of sport and those kind of things that can push you to the limits that we pushed ourselves over the last 3 weeks.
Physically and mentally.
Both. It definitely, it's a massively physical, but without that mental strength with it. There was not one mountain, there was not one climb that we said, I'm not going there. We went out, there was one morning in particular, well, there was many, but that we knew there was a big big front coming, and we had no idea there was snow involved in it, but because we're Australian, it doesn't snow in Australia very much. But, we booted up, kitted up. It was our first morning into this spot, and massive thanks to the other 2 Aussie boys who had an absolute cracking trip that shared their spot. We didn't want to bother them until they tagged out, and thankfully they did and shared their information with us. Just so happens we were in that exact same spot 2 weeks earlier. But this is what happens when it's early season. We didn't see any sign, so we left. We ended up back there 14 days later. We're back in the exact same spot. So it's amazing how these things happen. But I think, we kitted up. We went in. Lonnie and I got about 2.5 miles up the trail. We split up. Lonnie got into elk and I followed a bugle up to this main ridge, and then we seen the front come underneath us because we're that high. And within 5 minutes we're fogged in. It's snowing. We both forgot our gators that day. We didn't have and we're very careful with how we do things in the mountains. We didn't have fire lighters, no lighter. I didn't even have my stove on me. I don't think you did either.
Nope.
Just
no
chasing
gators.
Elk, just to get crazy
just that
for these
commitment
things.
to get elk,
Yeah,
it's just
that's
that
it.
commitment to get into amongst.
All your effort at hunting them, trying to kill one.
The focus is there.
Yeah.
anyway, I had to drop off the mountain because there's risk of hypothermia and making wrong decisions. It's not country that you can make a wrong step in. You've got to be very careful what you're doing. Excuse me. And I got Lonnie in reach. And I said, mate, I'm heading back to camp. I've got to get a fire going. So we ended up meeting at the same point we left each other. Actually, it was funny how that timing was there. We got back to camp at, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the day or something like that. Afternoon, as I said, afternoons were dead, so we decided that, hey, we're going to dry ourselves out, ready to go for tomorrow. Like, there's no, like, we're going to wait for this storm to pass. It's like, let's go and get our boots dry so we can go do all this again in the morning. And we're going to take gators and a lighter. Like, it's just, there's no like, rest. There is this absolute drive to succeed something you have no control in. It's the weirdest feeling, and we've always said bow hunters are bred differently. A genuine straight bow hunter, like, we don't pick up a rifle. We do some at home, but we're bow hunters to the core, and it's just amazing what that can do. And when you hear a bugle, like, I'd be there, I'd be struggling, I'd be hating every step that I was taking. My legs would be killing me after a big day. And all of a sudden, a ball would pipe off. And I reckon Lonnie hated me because I'd just literally find the next gear. It's like, well, bull. And we'd be just going. And it's just like, how did that come? Like, where does that energy come from? And it's just this inner drive that you don't know. You can't find it. I can't find it with anything else I do. I play a lot of rugby league and things like that. But the drive that hunting and chasing elk does, red deer back home, as Brian, if you experience this year, is very similar. You hear that deer go off and you just, I don't know, something just comes over you and off you go. And we laugh at it now, but it was so silly. Like, we went straight back out the next day and I stalked into a bull, and unfortunately the wind got me, but I had a nice 6 point, within 20 yards. I couldn't see him in the shadows.
That was that one in that bowl, right?
Yeah,
where you could see the cow and the calf.
Took me 2 hours to stalk in. I had Brian's little voice in my head and another good mate from home and in the other shoulder saying, take your time. Patient kills the buck. 2 hours I took to get through the deadfall. It's snowing. It was starting to melt by this stage, and I'm drenched. I'm freezing. Every time I stopped, I'd be just like locked up. Took me time. Got in. I could see the calf at 35 yards. It's like, yeah, this is good. I know he's here. And I'd seen the bull by this time, and I was just sort of getting myself ready to, sort of glass around. I just felt that wind get lazy. And I heard the cow bark, and yeah. It happened. It took 2 hours to get in, and it was over in 3 minutes.
Isn't that elk hunting? Yeah, it's like, oh
so
man.
bad.
You guys just have the same drive that I do. It's just those same feelings. There's nothing in life that pushes me more or wants to, like you want to be out there, and you do. It is like you are against the elements, and you're against these elk that have such keen instincts that just catch you the moment you make a mistake, or a lot of times catch you when you don't even make a mistake. Like, that's how keen they are, know. And then they can cover so much country. Like, Lonnie, I remember one of your stories of chasing that bull over the coulee and over the next one, and then down in the bottom, and you were cussing your watch that told you you needed to sit down. And it's just hilarious, man.
Yeah, and
I wish I'd taken a photo of you when you got down that road there.
I was just spent. I had just given it every little thing that that I could, and things just went quiet for about 10 minutes, and the next time I heard him, he was back up the top. I'm like, how on earth did you do that so fast? I just dragged my back end all over hill and dale. And just in a matter of minutes, he was just back up on top where he started. I'm like, this can't be happening. And I was just gone. I was wrecked. I had no water. I was just, I was out on my feet. But,
And mentally spent, too. It's like, you guys, I just recorded the solo podcast for last week, and I talked about all the close encounters I had and the miles of chasing these elk and the long walks out with the headlamp and early mornings getting started. Like, you just put your everything into it. And like you said, a lot of times that's not going to guarantee success. It's still got to come together. And it comes down to making those real quality plays. But even then, that wind can switch around so quick. That bull can never come to your side of the cows. And those elk, those big bulls, they have a knack for making the right move and stopping behind the tree or one more step or on the other side of the cows. It seems like those bulls always have themselves in a really good position for them and a bad position for us. So it's like rare to just catch them and get that broadside shot we're looking for, but eventually it comes together if you keep pushing and striving for that. But yeah, man, I feel your pain. I was the same way.
Yeah, you got to do 100% right and just hope that they do that 10% wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you got to capitalize on that. But I mean, there's just no downtime. Like, you might not be hiking through the day, or you might be just laid up having a little rest during the downtime during the day, but your mind's going. It's planning the next hunt, or it's planning where they're going to come out, or like it just does not stop.
Yeah, that's it. It's that immersion in it.
How am I going to make it back to the truck tonight?
It's the immersion, and I think that focused energy and focused thought of just thinking about elk. It is, but the thing that you're not thinking about is any problems you have or any issues. Like, you're totally focus into this hunt, like totally present in that moment. And there's not much in life where you're totally 100% present, all your mental and physical energy. I think it's part of the beauty of it, but it is exhausting.
It is exhausting. It takes it, and you're only going to get 3 hours sleep, and you're going to do all of that again. It is brutal.
And we love every minute of it.
We love every bit of it.
That's it. Yeah.
It's funny, talking about that mental thing. I've got to say this one morning, because it was me that was the cranky pants this particular morning, but we were camped in one drainage, and it's busy as there's plenty of people with trailheads, and the Aussie boys had some luck on this other sort of drainage, and they said, look, get around and have a look and see if the big boys moved in. They couldn't at that point. They hadn't, it was just all sort of raghorns and that. I think they found one sort of shooter that they
that's right.
want to take, and they're chasing their first elk as well. So I said to Lonnie, look, we're going to we had a really good evening. We had a really good day. Lonnie nearly shot like a really nice bull. Anyway, just another tree story, but anyway. And so we woke up the next week, so we'll give that spot a little rest. It was only a small spot we were chasing a couple of elk in. There was no one in it, so we thought, look, we'll go and check this other drainage on the other side of the mountain. Anyway, so we thought we'd give it, so we left the camp at 4:30 or something like that. Well, this is one of the worst roads we drove. It's the main road, and we finally get around. The sun's coming up. We're halfway around. We're not even there, so I'm blowing steam. Lonnie's trying to calm me down.
Not trying to miss out on a session.
I just didn't want to miss the session, because everything, we knew the mornings. Because by the time, if you miss the morning session, you don't know whether there's any elk there or not. Like, that was as simple as it was. So if you weren't there sunrise to 10:30, and you didn't hear a bugle, you were effectively gone for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So so Lonnie just grabbed something. He's like, mate, there's a trailhead down the bottom of this hill. Let's just pull in there, because I'm spitting chips that the sun's nearly up, and I'm going off. I was cranky. So we literally pull into this trailhead, and there's horse trailers and big fifth wheelers and that everywhere, and we didn't worry. There's still enough, darkness to make it work. Starting to see what we're going on, and as we got our packs on and just a bit of a day kit, we start hiking. We look up, and we're like, this drainage is huge. And we're like, oh well, let's see. I think by this time Lonnie's thinking, cool, 2 hours we'll be back in town drinking coffee, because it was nothing was going to happen. Like, this was just like let's just go for a walk and see what happens. So I think we walked about 4 mile straight up, and I'm cranky, so I'm punching up this creek. I take this beautiful left turn that puts us straight on a knife ridge trail. Lonnie thought I'd been there before. I had no idea where I was going. We get up this trail, and we just pretty much kick. Sun's up by this time, and 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever it may be. We're just having a look around, and we, throwing a few bugles out, things like that. Just enjoying it. By this time, we're pretty much just enjoying the surrounds. Absolutely gorgeous country, some of the nicest country we walked
Stunning.
Absolutely beautiful. I think it's been pretty good deer country there too, by the look of it. And then Lonnie just looks up and he goes, mate, have a look at that meadow up there. I said, no, I had a look at it before. He said, no, just have a look at it. Like, we're starting to do the bees and the butterfly stuff now. So I gave me binos and look up and goes, I said, what, that big ball walking through the middle of it? Yes, where? And he puts the bino and said, there's this big ball. And he looks like a pin drop. Like it's that far away, but you can tell this bloke's got things going on.
He was the real deal.
He was a real deal.
Yep.
And Lonnie goes, what are we doing? I'm like, we'll go and chase that elk. And we both looked at each other and gone, how in the world are we going to get over there before dark? And it's 9 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning. Anyway, so we climbed, like we were up high, and we're like, okay, here we go. So we dropped straight off the side of that hill. No one in their right mind would ever drop the height off the height we were.
No one in their right mind would have even been at the top to start with. You know what I mean? Like to us, it's just normal. But to people that don't understand what we do, they'd be horrified we were even there.
Funnily enough, it's amazing. We have a lot, well, myself, I have a lot of difficulty judging the perception of how big this country is, whether it's small or big, because it is so much bigger than home. But we actually got there in really good time. Like we punched it. We found a couple of really good trails, and we're probably across there within an hour. So we're underneath sort of this, and it turned out to be a lot steeper than we thought. And there was a really high meadow. It was only small. It was only 100 yards by 100 yards around, I'm guessing. Excuse me. And so we thought, we'll just have a bite to eat, a bit of a drink. There was a creek there, so we topped up some water. And Lonnie's like, I swear I can hear him bugling. And it's hard when there's a creek, you sort of, and it's above you, so it's sort of not really echoing to you. Well, that afternoon was probably some of the best hunting that we'd ever had. We chased this thing around the mountain like nothing else. Long story short, I actually ended up slipping the boots off. We'd put into bed, I slipped the boots off, and I tried to get in close, and I got into probably 80 or 90 yards in the timber off him. Wind was really starting to get dodgy. There's a bit of a front starting to come in, and it just wasn't looking right. And so I decided to back out. But just before I decided to back out, I spotted his cow, and I actually glassed him, and I could see his bases and his fronts, and I'm like, that's a proper ball, big dark timber, really heavy on really heavy bases, and I'm like, yep, right, we're not going to blow this guy out of the country. I'm going to back out, and we still had a couple of hours left to light. Yep. So I decided to back out, and Lonnie's way up behind me. He's like, oh, what happened? I said, I've backed out. Wind's terrible. He's like, cool, righto. We'll come back in here tomorrow. We're in the middle of we're way back. And anyway, long story short, we backed out, ran into a nice 5-point on the way out, and unfortunately that didn't come off for Lonnie. And then we punched it all the way back, and I think that was our 15 to 16 mile day. I think it was.
That one was starting to get up there. I don't think we had to go into town and get a few groceries that night.
Was that our trippy?
That was, yeah.
That was our trippy night in the food
we
shop.
were just spent. It was so bizarre. The pair of us were just walking around in the Whole Foods. We knew we had to get some items for camp, but we were walking around looking at each other like, what are we even here for?
Put you in a different state of mind when you have that
in
exertion.
Another planet.
Yeah. And it's 16, 17 miles, whatever you guys did that. But it's mountain miles. It's with elevation.
Yeah. We're not on a flat racetrack.
I can run a marathon in 3 hours, but I guarantee you guys did 6-7 hours of hiking at least to get that many miles. Like, it's so many hours of exertion. So that state of mind you're talking about is like almost you walk so far, you're so spent.
You're calorie deficient.
Yeah, you're in this different dimension almost, The
big one I got out of that, and this is where I was leading to, it's a very long way to get around to it, but it was that push and that, that the reaction for Lonnie, to be able to, hunt together with one of your best mates, but, you have your good and bad days, you can't just be all rosy the whole time, but for him to go, hey mate, there's a trail just down here, put the effort in, and something nearly comes from it. And I think that's where I'm heading with it, is trying to stay in the game in your highs and lows, or having a great hunting buddy that can help you through that. And then, it went back the other way numerous times as well. Yep. And I think that's where I was heading with it, was, that mental toughness to still commit. It was very easy to drive straight past that trailhead and go to town and have coffee. Mm-hmm. could have done that,
So
missed
true.
the whole session.
It would have been
because
the
I was too
easier
late.
choice.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Would have been a whole much easier. But that hunt opened up the next 3 days. We actually went back there the next day and hiked in. I actually we thought it was this guy. I spotted the elk. We were up on the same meadow. We set up camp in the opposite ridge, and we got in, and we actually blind called the bull in. He just wasn't doing anything, and I thought I'd busted his cow, so we thought it kind of got pretty aggressive on him. First time I've ever done it. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I blew pretty hard on the bugle tube at him, and he actually ended up coming in quiet. It was actually the biggest bull that we've seen the whole trip. I'm talking sort of a 340, 350 class bull, something that really, I had him at 43 yards and 2 aspens covering his chest. So that and he just turned and walked out of our lives, and we've never seen him again. So it's those kind of things that make you come back. A lot of people that don't understand or have never done it go, well, how come he didn't shoot one? Well, mate, I'm telling you right now, we did absolutely everything to try and do it. And it wasn't by a mistake, or I didn't miss a shot, or a bad placement, or anything like that. It was just this thing just didn't take an extra step, or not. It took one too many.
And that's exactly why it's going to make it so much easier, and for me, to get on that plane tomorrow, and knowing that I haven't killed an elk, knowing that we left nothing in the tank, there was nothing more that we could have done to try and get it done. It makes it that much more easier to live with, rather than what about that day that we didn't put in, or what. You can't have that. You can't have that playing on your mind. You got to go at it. If you're going to do it properly, do it hard, and
100%, man. We grew up and lived thousands of miles apart, but we're so similar in the way we think about things. Like, I also had a couple muley hunts that I was unsuccessful on, high country, that I absolutely love, and I gave it my all on those hunts.
The first one.
Yeah.
Well, the Utah one, I was meant to be with you on that one.
Yeah. And but yeah, I mean, it's just the way it goes. It's when you take on such a difficult task and challenge, like you come up short now and again. And two, I think it's like the more you learn this country, and the better you learn elk, like the better your chances at finding success, where you guys had to really pay your dues and hunt totally new areas. But I do think, like, what you're talking about, Craig, is this that mental toughness and that edge. Like, I had a cameraman for a lot of my elk hunt. And just like you have to be present in the spot that you're hunting. You can't always think the grass is greener somewhere else. So here you have this morning, and you have your sun's rising, you're running out of time, choose a random trailhead, and you guys go punch up in there, and then you take that left and you get on that knife blade ridge and you keep hunting. Like, there's so much to like hunting the spot you're in. And sure, it's great when you have a bull located, you hear a bugle from the trailhead in the morning or the trail going in, you spotted this bull last night. Like, that's all fine and dandy. But there's this time and this place where you don't have an elk located. You have a morning hunt. And why I mentioned my cameraman is, like, as we were discussing this and talking this, like, there was a couple times, like, I never had to talk him into going, but he's doing what I'm doing. If I choose that the hunt's over, that we need to head back and grab some breakfast or lunch, that's what we're doing. But every time I was faced with this decision, I'd go, oh, let's punch up to this next ridge. Like, I know it's getting late. It's 8:15, but we are in this spot right now. We have to give it our all in this spot and see if we can locate one. And I remember telling him, like, man, you can just go over the ridge, and then you hear a bugle or you see a bull, and then you're on them, and here we went up this next ridge till 9 o'clock, where it's like, it would have been really easy to stop. Like, we had made a good hike in the morning, an hour in the dark. We had pushed an hour and a half in the morning hunting good elk country, a few tracks, few rubs, didn't see an elk, and could glass a bunch of country. Got to this bench, and it was like a good place to turn around, because the next climb was straight up to this point, but I said, oh man, we just got to get up to that next point. I know it's getting late. Just get up there and see what we can see, and see if we can locate one. And sure enough, we made that next push up, and then I locate, this great big bull that's pushing his cows to some timber that I ended up hunting for 3 days. And I located him just by being present in that hunt, in that moment and
Yep.
giving it my all on that hunt and not thinking about the next one or where we're going to go to. Like, just, I'm in here now. Let's see if there's some elk in here now. And it happened multiple times on our hunt where my cameraman looked at me and he's like, I wonder how many times I've turned back when I'm one ridge away from finding elk.
Yeah.
When I'm one ridge away from finding
Yeah.
what I'm looking for.
You have
It's
to-
like,
You have to be just as mentally and physically invested in the day or the hunt, whether you're hearing bugles or hearing crickets. It can change in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You gotta go
Your
for
cameraman's really put it. How many times I turned around. That's yeah. You said
If
something.
you've got something in the tank, you need to use it.
You actually, like, obviously we're in touch, through the InReach, and we're keeping each other up to date, and the positive talk between the two. But Brian, you did say something to me. In one of the messages there, it's like, look, man, we got really lucky last year how early the rut was. And that actually stuck with me for quite some time, because I think it was like the 10th and we were in the bugling bulls last year. It was, we struck it lucky, right? And that sort of hit me as well, because I'm like, well, I'm probably walking past elk. They're not bugling, but I think that sort of made me concentrate harder in what I was doing, like the effort what I was making, where do I put that effort, So I started getting back onto the Onyx, or and finding those little pockets that I think that everyone may be walking past. And that's sort of how these couple little hunts started coming into play, was because we were, we find that little portion where you nearly shot that one that night, and had a close run in with the one in the morning. It was this little piece of the parcel where everybody else was riding, everything else past it.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to get a little bit more tactful, because I'm like, we're hunting general season elk. We're not going to have the one spotted or that big herd sitting up in that hill, not bothered, like, potentially a premier tag might bring you. And that changed my mindset, because I was expecting because all I had to go on was last year. You know what I mean? It'd been a few years since I'd chased elk. We weren't that far. So I was just using our hunt last year and trying to replicate that into the country we were in. It didn't quite work like that exactly, but there was similar traits. And that's all I was just going back, and I'd say to Lonnie numerous times, well, last year, this is what happened. So some of it worked, some of it didn't, but I think the biggest one was being present in the position that you were at the time. And it was amazing how many times that actually nearly come off. That was maybe a little bit lucky, or whatever it may have been, that we looked into the meadow and seen that bull, and it ended up, finding us several bulls and a grizzly. So
elk lead to other elk too, right? Remember that from
100%.
last year? Is you see an elk a long ways off, you make the big hike over there. That was my other point I wanted to make. And then you guys chased that big bull, but you found other bulls,
Yeah.
and they were bugling over there. Like, elk leads to other elk.
Yeah, and that was a massive one. That really was, Brian. I didn't really think of that in the time, but that was happening. We found that bull, and then like another bull come across the top of us that next day, and we're like, we haven't seen that one before. Like, you don't see every elk that's in there. Like, we tried everything we could to try and find everything else that was in it, and we were hunting a very small patch of thicket. It wasn't, everything else around it was clear. So it was just these couple of bulls had cows pushed up in this tight little country, and we give it all in there. And it was only that they just, there was no consistency. It was so thick. It started getting back to that point. It was like, well, how much more time do we use here? The other boys by this time had tagged out. Our other Aussie buddies, they tagged out by this time, and they said, look, mate, there's a lot of elk in this other spot. You guys need to get here, because they're going off quite well. They were right. They were. There was a lot of elk in there. It was hard to hunt. They done very well to kill what they killed out of there. And so, and then I ran into a grizzly where he shouldn't have been. I didn't have me pistol on me at the time, because it wasn't to be known down there, and people are sort of questioning it. And I said, look, I've seen my fair share of black bears, and I'm telling you right now, he was grizz every day of the week. So, his sheer size, the look and everything. So that put us there. We moved out of that area, playing it safe. We moved out of the area straight away, back to the trailhead, and we changed spots. So, but you talk about being present, and I have elk experience, but I don't have as much as you, Brian. But it's starting to put the pieces together on what and how they can work, and what won't is a big one. there can be a lot of wasted time. I was really concerned about, jumping into a spot for too long. We talked about backpacking into a spot and things like that. And Lonnie's like, the hard thing for Lonnie did a couple of sessions, off with camp on his back. But he said, look, I couldn't go anywhere because I had to see what the afternoon brought, or I couldn't go past the morning because we didn't have the afternoons.
You can't rule out country in the
You
middle
can't
of the
rule
day.
out country, no.
So you have to sit and wait.
More or less
And then
sat and wait
tick it
for
off
the
the
next
list or
morning
whatever.
to tick it off. And that was what was really difficult.
Yeah. But, you got to make the most of the time that you are there, I feel. On that particular hunt, there was a big knife ridge that sort of ran a long way. As I was heading back to you that morning, there was a nice herd of cows out in the open, but the bull was just subpar, which was just unfortunate. He was in a really, really killable spot, but just not what I was looking for. So, I mean, by staying that extra day, had that been a bull that sort of ticked the box for me, it would have worked in that instance. Devoting that extra afternoon / morning to really sort of covering the country. But no, you're 100% right in what you say. Like you can't. I don't think you can invest too much time when the everything's just not aligning. You know what I mean?
It's hard. Like it's hard to move country when you kind of know that it's going to eventually work. But we're limited. We only have the 3 weeks, and not that's not all hunting. Like there's travel and everything involved there. So that was probably the biggest mind play for me, was knowing when to move and when not to move. And I kind of used our experience last year where we kind of left elk to find elk, and when we come back, they'd completely changed their habits, and kind of regret that move. I think maybe I should have stuck it out. But there's that adventure to see what is on the other side of the hill. It's like, oh, well, let's see what's down that end of the
It's a fine line, isn't it?
It's a really,
So is.
Yeah.
And look, I guess, putting the elk aside, like, we both had moments where we'd pop out of the tree line and onto a ridge and just really realise what we're actually doing. Like we're one of very few Aussies that come and get to do this, in the country that we have. With our lives revolve around coming to do this in certain ways. So there was moments there that we had to smell the roses, and I think it's pretty important to do that as well at the same time. So, and as you said before, Brian, like the adventure was, the hunt was there definitely. The pursuit of the elk, that's the biggest driver. But at the end of the day, the adventure that we've had, to me, I've done some big ones, but this one was probably unmatched.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Has all the makings, for a great trip. And it is, I mean, you guys are on a different side of the world, like experiencing something different in the Rocky Mountains, chasing these elk. And then you guys just immersed yourself in it, at these close calls. And you're right, like you kept pretty mobile. It's like, it is tough. You have to listen to your gut and your instincts a lot of when to move. And I thought you guys did a great job of mixing and matching the overnight trips and the backpacking, or when they were further back. And like you said, that last spot, if you could have had a few more days there, if you could have backpacked your camp in there, and they were back a little bit deeper, and it's just the way it goes. It just took days to find these spots and these elk and these locations.
Exactly, but we know that now for next time we draw that tag.
Yeah.
So we've paid our dues, as you say.
And we look at yourself, Brian, that where we were, you're back in there this year where we were hunting last year, and it's just such a. We were literally throwing a dart on a map and going for it.
Exactly.
Like that is literally what we did for 3 weeks. We had some information that came through. I had another buddy that helped me out who's a Wyoming guy, and he helped me out. But he said, "Mate, I haven't been down there for ages." You know what I mean? But he's some spots to try, and we didn't hit sort of any of them directly, but he gave us some confidence that we're in the right area. Is probably a better way to put it. And it come off, and Ali can tell, mate, I don't think they could do anything wrong. Everywhere they walked, they found elk. They just had a trip of a lifetime.
That was your two buddies from Australia, but they came out on their own, right?
They did, yeah.
So they'd been to Colorado. They'd shot a mule deer each.
Oh, good for
them.
them.
Down in the high country, come up, had the same tag as us. And, eventually, smoke, a nice bull each.
Good for them.
But credit to those guys as well. They knew the system. They knew how the tag system worked. They knew the country. They'd done their e-scouting. They walked.
Yep.
They walked the miles. They were successful. And
Yep. They were the same. The hospitality really helped them. They were talking to deer hunters, so every deer hunter that come past, or elk hunters, they just, hey, have a good chat with them. And they ended up being around another spot and spoke to some deer hunters like, mate, there's a pile of elk up in this canyon. You need to get around there.
Yep.
And that was the intel that paid for them. It was just the hospitality of the Wyoming residents or hunters in general is what paid off. So hunters helping other hunters to to be successful, I think is just that's just so good to hear, because you don't, I think that gets missed a lot. The competitiveness kind of seems to take over a little bit, but I think that and obviously they then invited us into the trailhead, and we had probably 5 of some of the best days hunting elk, that we could have asked for really. And the final day, wasn't Lonnie's final. We went for one more session. It busted me. Blew me boots out and everything else, but I think that was the big day. But we had a proper elk party, for the morning.
And it was so good to see. I'd never ever witnessed anything like that. Oh, apart from reds, I've seen red stags, proper get into it. But to witness the elk do it was just was mind blowing. And to come from another country here, enjoy what you guys have got here, meet some awesome people, see some awesome country, get to witness elk do their thing. I've seen bears, I've caught in a couple of bull moose. You just can't ask. You push yourself to the limit. You can't ask for any more than that. You just can't.
Nah,
it's
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we game warden come into camp on more or less that night. I think the big night, wasn't it? When we came in.
I think it was, yeah.
It was the big night, yeah. So game warden comes in, having a chat, and honestly, mate, couldn't have been a nicer guy. Just such a good dude, and he goes, "Have you got any questions?" I said, "Well, mate, honestly, I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for what you guys offer. For us to come from the other side of the world to be able to do this." And obviously I follow a lot of the conservation things and all those kind of things that happens. I follow a lot of that, and hence why I've got background in the tags and how they all work. But I think when we thanked him for that, you could see the look on his face of maybe a little bit of accomplishment and pride, because at the end of the day, without everything that goes around, the hunters doing what they do, and all the fishing games and all that kind of stuff, we don't have that at home. Ours is the other end of the scale, so we really, really appreciate it. And you guys have got something amazing, and you really need to look after it, because we're on the other end of the scale, and it's not good. So to be able to come here, and I think that's what helps us drive to get here every year too, because I've stopped the whole chasing properties to hunt and all that back home, because I will see most of ours is all private land hunting, as you've seen, Ryan, and it's very political with property owners and managers and those kind of things. So to be able to come here once a year, just pretty much hunt freely, within whatever, depending on whatever tag you've got, it's really special, especially for someone like us that live for it, sort of thing. So,
and you actually do feel free, you step out of the vehicle, throw your pack on, and it is a totally different feeling walking into these public lands than it is us walking into our private block that we hunt. It's a totally different feeling, because you feel free, and it's an amazing feeling.
To see families the big rigs rock up. There's mum, there's dad, there's grandpa, grandma, the kids,
the buggy,
in
the back of the side
by side, the horses,
just enjoying the outdoors.
And it's just
it's the best.
It is unbelievable. And I'll for those that probably don't know, national parks in Australia, you're more or less locked out of them. You're not allowed to use them. Here you guys are with national forests. I know it's a little bit different, but your national parks here. We drove through Yellowstone on the way home, and how many thousands of people were through there?
Yeah,
enjoying something that's obviously very special to you guys and the US in general.
Yep. 90% of our national parks at home have got
You
a
can't
gate
drive
across
through.
them.
You know, and I think that's where, people go, oh, you're kind of going on a bit, but it's like, until you actually come here and experience this freedom that you guys have got as far as like from a hunting perspective and the outdoors perspective, it's truly unbelievable. And that's what just makes it easy to go home without a set of antlers. That's what, I guess at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah.
We love the pursuit of it, and I can't wait to do it. I hope I don't lose the drive for it when I eventually do get that bull that I want. I don't think I'll ever will, but there's plenty of other hunts we'll do for sure. But
It'll light that fire even hotter. It's like there's some guys that accomplish something or set their sights on a goal and kill a big bull and go, well, I got my big bull on the wall. I'm done hunting elk. And there's definitely that type of person, but I think we're wired a bit different. When I kill a big bull, it's like, man, I want to climb Everest again. I want to start putting in the work for next year. They say that this is a once in a lifetime bull. It's like, I'd like to kill a couple in a lifetime. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's like yesterday we get back and we're talking tag tactics within 30 minutes of getting us in the house and seeing Brian. We're talking tag tactics for next year. Yeah. How can we get another tag? And it's like, 6 weeks ago I said that I wasn't coming next year. So
it's a real problem, isn't it? It's an addiction, but it's a good addiction, and we do come back as better people. Yeah. It's like to be able to cut ourselves loose physically and mentally and have this reset. We do come back as better husbands, better fathers, better at work, more driven.
To grow, you need to challenge yourself and to push yourself to those limits. Otherwise, you just stay stagnant. You need to grow. You need that in your life.
That day I was kicking around the dirt, because we dug plenty of bear beds on the side of the hill and have a sleep. Don't worry about that.
We chatted about that.
And there was this one day that I was there, and I was just looking I was literally just looking in the dirt, because a lot of, for anyone that's hunted elk, there's a lot of downtime. And I just looked up Lonnie. I said, you know what I'm going to do when I get home? He's like, what? I said, I'm going to make sure that I take my kids out at least once a week. Just go and lay in the grass on the lawn. Just look at the dirt.
Yep. Just smell the roses.
Just have them involved in stuff that is so simple. But you don't get that. You don't think of that kind of stuff anywhere else. The day-to-day grind smothers all that. And then, we get to do what we did in the hills, and some of the photos and that we've got and the things we've seen. The photos will never do that country justice. I don't care how good a photographer you are. It's never going to happen, but
you did get some good photos.
Did our best,
but you're right, is that it just doesn't do justice to experiencing it. Yeah. And we do get so caught up in life with constantly entertained or thinking about the next move or getting this ready for tomorrow or this deal that we don't spend enough time just looking at the dirt and the ants and the tree, and we don't get enough time to think anymore and it gives us perspective on our lives and how we're living them and our interactions with other people. So I think it's like so important, like you guys talk about kicking out a bear bed or laying in the dirt, and you're there kicking out like a flat spot to lay in that's comfortable.
Well, you're basically becoming an animal again.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're stepping back thousands and thousands of years,
It's in us. It's in our DNA. It's natural. To be out there and to be on that chase and that hunt. And to our ancestors, you think it means a lot to us now, and it does. It's everything to us. But if you can imagine starving to death or killing an animal and how much it meant to them, that they had to harvest to survive or to keep their families alive, their kids alive. They had to harvest an animal. And so that drive is in us. There's a reason why we'll push up these mountains and we'll wake up at these wild hours and we'll push ourselves to our limits. It's in our DNA. It's what we're meant to be doing. And when you're in the woods and you're becoming this animal state, and it takes a few days to get in the rhythm with the mountains again.
It did 4 or 5 days, I reckon.
It's tough. You got this hustle and bustle that's built into us where we're constantly working and striving and family, and I'm at this deal and I need to be in this engagement, to just unwinding and chasing elk and looking at the dirt. It feels a little out of place at first, but once you start to get into the rhythm, you're like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is it.
This is it.
Yeah, I'm living it right now. I'm living the adventure that I want to be living the life that I want to be living. Man, it's so powerful. It's so fun.
Yeah. I think that, the setup, like we go home and we will now set up for the next 12 months. And there's not a lot of things that can do that. And I think, I go back to, there's so many stories and we could be here for hours, but, we go back to the people I met, to Braden that picked me up on the road after one of the biggest morning sessions I had done, picked me up on the road and I just, thank you. And then he's like, no, I'll drive you up the trail. And this trail was terrible. So I've never been up here. He's a local lad. And he drove up. We shot 2 grouse on the way up. Had an absolute ball.
Had to adventure with some guy you'd never
Some
met.
random guy.
Some American with some Aussie
But
guy.
you're creating memories for him. He
Yeah.
would imagine what he would have went home and told his family.
Yeah, I know. It's like there's some random Aussie guys on the side of the road. He takes you up, drops me off at camp and goes, see you, man, best of luck. It's probably one of the coolest 45 minutes an hour or whatever I spent with him. Like, it was unreal.
Just random.
I packed up camp and no, I didn't pack up camp at that point. I had a bit of feed and I drove back down the track, bounced me all the way around the bottom. I come around the corner and here's this, this caravan and a big truck, 2,500, 3,500 truck and a caravan trying to turn around the track, and one more foot and this thing was rolling. 45 minutes later, I get, it's a gentleman and his dad. His dad's, I don't know, one of the coolest dudes I've ever met, eh? But he's late 70s and he's probably mid 40s. No disrespect if he hears this, but I think that's what they were. The coolest dudes, like just absolute larrikins. And 45 minutes later, we get this caravan out. I don't know how we lifted it off, but anyway, we got it out, and I thought the thing was going to snap in half, but getting out, and the old man, he's hooting and hollering, and every time I drove past that camp, I was just getting the biggest hoo-ha from the road. And they knew the truck, and it was just, and I'm like, and then Lonnie says, like, can you imagine what they're going to say when they get home?
Yeah.
This Aussie guy helped us out. And then I think sometimes we, and I'd love to remind everybody of this, hunting has got very competitive and it's very social media and big bulls, big bucks, whatever it is. But you guys really start enjoying it together, enjoying other people that are doing it with you, because I think that's what's keeping it alive.
Yeah. Well said.
I think we met Lonnie especially, we met a family from Utah. A gentleman waited 14 years for his deer tag and they couldn't find a deer. And that smashed me. Like, I'm just like, this is more or less, he's on his last hurrah for this deer hunt, and he's, we helped him out. Like Lonnie said, whether he'd seen some bucks and we spoke some other country, we did everything we could. And he come up to us and he goes, I got a video to show you. And he showed us a video of his 15-year-old daughter going back a couple of years ago, but, shooting her once-in-a-lifetime moose. And watching that cowboy's hand shake while he was watching that video. And I'm sure he's watched that every day for the last 2 years.
He was so proud.
Super proud. He came back and showed us that video, and I mean, she nailed this thing too. Like, she was a crack shot. Like, full credit to her. And there was, he was there. They scouted it. They did the whole show. And when they took the moose back to camp, and it's a stud. It's a Boone and Crockett in Utah, and the whole family's there. The grandma, the grandfather, all the siblings, the buddies. Like, there must have been 20 people there.
Yep.
And just watching this guy show us this video, and that was pretty much was my hunt, like, for this trip. Seeing the passion that come out of that gentleman for his daughter and just his family in general, what they had created, that pretty much ticked the box for me.
Yeah.
That was done.
And hunting brought all that together.
Yeah.
It's
Gosh, you
it's
guys
pretty special.
Yeah, it's super special.
Yeah.
You guys bring up a really good point. Like, Craig, you said it really well. It's like, out there, it's also to your benefit as well. Like, again, it comes back to this karma you put out. And as I hunt and I run into guys, like, I don't want to tell everybody everything of where the exact location or pin where I'm hunting, but I can share, information with them, and then people are able to open up to me. And not that I'm using it for my own benefit, but sometimes I'm just helping motivating these guys. So
you're doing it right now through your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and same thing this year. I mean, I ran into 2 Dakota boys in the dark at a trailhead. I asked them what their plan was. They were going in the drainage. We're going to go up this ridge. I'm going to stay out of your way. Well, then we run into them that night with headlamps, and we're back in the middle of just like nowhere. And of course, I've got good confidence of where I'm headed and where I'm going and down this ridge line and down to this trail. And they're from North Dakota and super knowledgeable guys, great hunters, but they're on like their first elk hunt. And they had just got themselves in this pickle chasing bulls where then it got dark and they're thinking of grizzly bears. And so they ran into me and I'm like, oh, follow us out. Yeah, we'll take you out. We were 2-3 hours of hiking out in the dark. And, he's like, oh, you guys are just absolute billy goats, just sweat piling down their face. And they were going. And I made friends with these guys and I checked in and I didn't hide anything from him, but I told him the bull I was after and where I was at. And after we hiked out and we became friends, like, oh, we're going to stay out of your way tomorrow. We're going to go down in here. And then I'd tell him about my encounters or the elk rut that I'm seeing or the information that I have. All of a sudden, you're able to gather all this information out. I ran into another guy like you guys. He was 80 years old, and he knew a teacher that teaches my daughter down in this school. He was 80 with his recurve, and he was going up the mountain, and just gave me like the best advice that he was going to die on his feet, and that he was going to do what he loves. He loves the smell of sage. He loves the smell of elk. He told me that living 100% is 10% in the rear view mirror, 10% of what's in front of you, and 80% right now here in the present. Just like these powerful messages that I talked to him for 30 minutes on the trail, and then told him where I'd seen elk and that they're getting started bugling, and he told me his plan to drop down in the bottom with the aspens, and I said, no, I haven't been in there. There might be a bull down there. But all these people that I'm running into, that I'm sharing information where I'm not giving my exact spot or location, but I'm sharing my encounters and what I'm seeing in the rut,
connecting,
and then they're sharing that information with me. And to be honest, this is a huge part of being successful, is just being being cordial and friendly, giving guys their space so we can all enjoy these lands together, sharing information to help them with their success. I've been in touch with a couple moose hunters that have this tag. I saw a bull, texted that guy where I'd seen the bull, and also just keeping in communication with them as well. Yep. But yeah, I think this is a huge part of sharing this great resource that we have and this great opportunity that we have. And you guys have done a stellar job, and I think that's why you've really enjoyed your trip as well. And I think it's like you guys thought for yourself and found your own elk areas, whether you had a couple leads, a couple pins, you didn't end up in those exact spots and you had to go find elk for yourself. But you're also like getting information along the way, these breadcrumbs along the way that are helping you piece everything together to put you into this elk party or into, these close encounters with that elk. And I think it's a huge part of hunting. And I think it's something that a lot of times that I've avoided, that like I'm almost a bit embarrassed of, like I just take off from a trailhead and didn't want to talk to anybody and just want to get out on my own and go have my experience. Where now it's like I'll talk to the guy at the trailhead and go, hey, what's your plan? Okay, I'll do the opposite. Or, hey, how's it going? You're doing what I'm doing. Like, to just share story a little bit. And I think that's a huge component of it and something that I've got better with over time, but something that I can continue to improve on. And I think a lot of guys can and still find great success.
100%. Sure. Like there must have been 12 trucks at that trailhead.
Yeah.
We never ran into anyone.
And that's the thing. Like there was a lot of times there where guys are just, they'd be just driving past if we were at camp or whatever it may be. They'd pull up and have a chat, and before you know it, they're like, oh, if we're still in the same country, just give us a holler. We can help pack out your bull or whatever.
Everyone offered help.
So helpful.
I've had strangers help me pack out a bull.
Those guys that we found, those 2 young guys from encampment, we found their dog.
Yep.
They were up in another unit there, just hunting lions, and we got chatting to those guys, and they said, "Oh, look, if we're still around, we're more than happy to give you a hand and Just super helpful
They'd
guys.
lost their dog. They'd been hunting all morning, and we went past them. You sort of just a quick wave, just polite wave, and then we only went another mile, and he's a hound going the other way, and Lonnie's a dog man, and he's like, mate, that's their dog. Long story short, we ended up turning around, ripped all the way back to him. It's like, went in the window, hey boys, you lost a dog? Yeah. Have you seen him? It's like, yeah, mate, he's going the other way. We'll go and catch him for you, and you guys catch up. And the dog had gone up the track. It was just following, going back reverse on the scent. But they were just like forever thankful because they were going completely other direction. And it's just the little things. It's just, and we had those guys, all the mountain bike guys, they're all parked up the trail,
that's right.
and they'd come down, and we were at the trail, and they said, oh, well, what are you boys doing? It's like, well, mate, we're probably looking to head out of you. So if you want to come back down this afternoon or whatever, we'll park now, whatever you want to do. And we had a good old chat with them. He was a recurve from
the Midwest somewhere, I think.
Yeah, I don't know where. Yeah, so first elk hunt, he had 4 or 5 buddies helping him. It was just awesome to see. And I don't know,
just really good interactions with everyone. Really positive, really helpful guys out there. So it was really good to see.
And I know it gets harder when you got those limited entries, and there's a bull called Larry, and the 20 blokes are after him. That, like, to be really honest with you, that's not me.
Me neither.
I'll draw an Arizona tag or something one day, hopefully. But I can tell you right now, I'm not going for units. The bulls are named. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you that right now, because to me that's not hunting. It's just, it's hard. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just different. Ruins the mystique of it,
Yeah,
it's like the adventure.
You don't want to get political about it, and I'd love to shoot some of the bulls that they do, but I'd love for that bull not to be known.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Go
mean?
have an experience.
To go and pull a bull. Those ones that fella we were chasing last year. I swear hardly any people even saw that bull. Mm-hmm. And the big fella that we come out.
Sure.
Well, actually, I didn't touch on that. The biggest bull I'd seen, we thought he was the other bull, but he wasn't. He was a completely different bull.
Yeah.
And he was quiet. Never made a bugle. Never made a noise. And he came in silent. That was in the middle of nowhere, which I don't even think anyone would have seen them bulls. And that, I think that means something to me. Just the unknown. It's just, it's pretty special.
That's it. You want to go have your own experience out there, and there's still opportunity for it. And even when you see trucks on a road, trucks on a trailhead, country's big out there. You get away from them, and elk are where humans aren't. And so when you get into elk, they're in there for a reason. And so even me, all my encounters I had this year, I had one guy that spooked the elk I was after, and good on him. He had hiked up this rugged canyon and probably heard them calling because they were going nuts up there. But the other 8, 9, 10 encounters I had, it was me versus the elk, me versus the bulls in this backcountry, and that's exactly what I'm looking for.
A couple of the places that Craig and I found, we'd be on Onyx, and we'd be sort of searching around, and we'd start packing into these little areas, and we'd look at this ridge or this mountain, and it would be, I don't reckon anyone's walking up that. And then it would be, well, we are.
Where we go.
And how much better is e-scouting in real time than when you're sitting in Australia? Or like when you're trying to plan it before then, you kind of make some game plans, but that scouting in real time, looking at your map, isn't that a powerful tool?
So much better. Like I done a fair bit of e-scouting at home before I come over, but some of it was useful and some of it wasn't, but yeah, there were so many times that we just got into country that no one else was going to, like very few people are going to go. And it paid off a few times, we got into elk, and like so many times that happened over the 3 weeks, we just needed that one more step, or that 2 more seconds of good wind.
Yeah. That's all it was. Actually, if you go back to every single one we had, it was either another step or the windows to hold out for that.
We both had opportunities on great bulls, like I had an opportunity on a 7.6 great bull. Was he 45 yards or something? I think he was. I just needed one more step, But there was just so many of those instances, but they're just out of your control. Like,
and
you can't do nothing
once
about
they
that.
turn and go, they're turn and gone. Like, they're not. Yeah, you're in thick country. It's timbered country. You know how it is. Like, it's not open. Unfortunately, it was an open meadow country where you could, 5 or 10 yards didn't matter. It wasn't like that. But that's where the bulls held up. That's where they were. So, as you said before, we had to find the bulls where they were, not where we wanted them to be. and that was the big one. Like, we wanted them to be in this certain country because we knew that we could hunt them there, but they weren't. They held to the pressure obviously pushed them into the thicker country. What amazed me actually, the where we hunted them the last few days, was the bulls. They just kept doing their thing no matter what pressure was there. That was really different. I'm sure they got pushed and within reason, but they still kept doing the same thing, and that really blew my mind. But as we got out further and away from that darker timber, that changed. So as they got more back up into the meadows and things like that, you bumped them, they were bumped. They'll gone into the next drainage or whatever it was. But that was kind of crazy in that thick timber country. But it's so good. Yeah. I remember popping out on this one ridge, and I counted 5 or 6 different bulls, all just 5 points. And I'm like, well, your elk population's healthy. You know what I mean? That's all I could say. I was like, none of them I wanted to. They were too far away anyway, but none of them I wanted to chase. They weren't big enough for me to chase them. But it was an awesome sight. Just seeing the big skyline bulls with their cows, and you're just like, have a go at that. Just unbelievable stuff. Like, there wasn't a day that. There wouldn't be in a day we wouldn't pull something from it.
Yep, that's making the most out of it.
Yeah.
That's a
backcountry
adventure. Yeah,
we've really had a good trip.
Yeah, you guys went for it.
Yeah.
Well, such great bow hunters and such great guys. So, just fortunate to be able to spend time with you, and we just have to share a hunt in the future. So we'll start making plans, and we'll get in on one of these hunts next season. And just good work, you guys, like soaking in the adventure, getting into elk consistently, making plays, like one more step, couple more minutes of good wind. It's like, that is elk hunting. That is my experience, every good elk hunter I know's experience, but eventually it just starts coming together. And you guys have definitely built the skill set and the elk knowledge, and now have some good locations that you can hunt, over and over again and can come back to. So you're just building your elk resume, and there's no doubt some big bulls are going to hit the deck in the future, and you guys are going to do it. So keep after it. It's like really good to hang out with you guys, like the few days that we got to spend together, and would definitely be more adventures in the future. And Craig, you've got the podcast. I've been on it a couple times. You do great episodes on there. I love tuning into the podcast.
Yeah, I've got to pick it back up, but this life's got in the way the last few months, but the hunting camp down under. So it's there's some good stories, especially from back home.
You do a great job. And Lonnie, you've been on there a handful of times. I think you shot a Fox Live on there. I think the one I listened to out of the cabin or something, right?
Yeah, I did.
Where we get a bit loose on there occasionally.
That's good.
We had this fox. He was coming in, sneaking around, stealing a bit of rubbish here and there. He actually stole one of my flip-flops. He chewed the strap on my flip-flop. And there was Jake, Craig and myself recording a podcast, and we seen him just sneak in. And so I quickly grabbed the bow, and he sort of snuck off, but we knew that he would be long and he'd be back, so I kept the arrow on the string and just waited for him to pop back in, and actually shot him through the fly mesh of the door. So that's probably one of a kind, I would imagine. But.
And then I got to chase reds with you last year, Craig. You shot an amazing stag, and we recorded that for your podcast as well.
Yeah,
had such a great time there, and in Australia chasing the red sandbar. Lonnie, you came by for a night, spent a night. We had some good laughs there. It was great. And then you chased the Asiatic water buffalo quite a bit. So hearing you talk about that, and the salties, the crocs that sit there and dragging the boat by the crocs, and then that Northern Territory and the hogs you guys chase. Like, you guys have a bunch of good hunting out there in Australia as well.
I try to go up to the Territory and visit a mate up there once a year, and it's just a totally different adventure, but just as physical and mentally demanding as these mountains you got here. But totally different hunt. But
bow hunting's in a big development stage back in home too. So that's where our podcast and that have really, over the last few years, there's quite a few of them now. I was lucky I started sort of when there wasn't too many sort of I guess, bow hunting emphasis, or emphasise on bow hunting, I should say. But, we crossed over between all hunting. But, we're in a big development stage. We've got hunting's a little bit of a different outlook back in Australia. So, we're hunting what's so-called, introduced species, even though that we believe wholeheartedly that our deer belong in our bush. But, so it's an interesting phase, and we watch you guys a lot, and, I know a lot of people back home, really look up to a lot of the, like yourself and a lot of other well-known bow hunters. Lonnie and I, we talk about, like yourself, Brian, getting out, coming out to Australia, doing Hawaii, on a Dan Picard, mate of yours, that, does the same thing. There's Remy Warren. Like, these guys, like you guys, are just so well-rounded. Like, I know there's guys out there who can go and shoot their big elk every year, and that's it. But you guys get out there, and no matter where you're going, you're a killer with a bow. And that's to us, that's a big notch in our hat, because for you to walk in like we did, I took you in those deer that, back home, and Jake, you go in and do what you did, harvest it like it was just like, I'm just chasing another animal and I've got my bow and I know what I'm doing. Like that's something pretty special, and that's what we're trying to share around, that, that whole round of week, us coming here, we're trying to just bring our skills here. Sometimes it pays, sometimes it doesn't, but we're building that toolbox, and some of the stuff we learn here we'll take back home, especially on the physical, the mental toughness and the physical stuff. We'll take that back home and put it to practice. But, I think, as I said, I could go on forever, but, just my closing words would be just, look after what you got.
Yep. Yeah, I won't take it lightly.
Yeah, no, he's got a beautiful thing here, and it's just been a pleasure to be a part of it. I really feel blessed that I got the ability to come over and witness what you guys have got. So thank you very much for having us here, and all the help, and it's very much appreciated.
Yep, my pleasure. Yeah, amazing guys. All right, sounds
Cheers,
good.
Man. Thanks
Let's
for your time,
do a
buddy.
wrap. Yeah, get you guys to a plane. So thanks for the recording. I really appreciate it.
No worries, man. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Again, thanks to my friends Craig and Lonnie, just great guys. And again, that podcast, you can listen to it, is Hunting Camp Down Under. I screwed it up on the intro, but it was right at the end, so I didn't want to have to go record. And I knew Craig said it on the podcast, and I'll repeat it here on the ending. But just great guys. I do listen to that podcast. I was just drawing a blank. But they do a great job. There's a couple episodes that I've been on there, and some other great episodes like we talked about in the podcast where Lonnie shot a fox on the podcast, and some good stuff on there. So check that out. Thanks again to those guys for being on, and just being great guys and great friends. I really enjoy my friendship with them, and then can't wait to connect with them again, whether it's here in the States or there in Australia. Lonnie's got these ends for hunting the Asiatic water buffalo in the Northern Territories, which is just wild. He tells me about it, and they're like dragon boats by saltwater crocs, and he talks about those saltwater crocs, how there is no mystery that if you go next to their water hole with a big saltwater croc in there, he will attack you 100% of the time. It's just so wild to hear about, and just some of the snakes in there. It's just it's crazy. It's just a different part of the world. So I know these guys were really kind to host me when I went there this spring, and it just reminds me how similar us hunters are, even if we grew up on the other side of planet Earth. So anyways, great guys, great podcast. Thanks again for them being on. And want to thank our sponsors for today's show, so Savage and Swagger. Want to thank Black Ovis. Again, that promo code is Elevated 10 and Camo Fire. Promo code for the mule deer course is Brian MDC. Get that free mag view. It's that Digiscope. Hook right up to your scope or up to your binos, and you can get some great video there. So, man, with that, over at Eastmans, we've got the magazines, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal, our tag hub, and then that mule deer course that I just gave you the promo code for. And make sure to check out our new Beyond the Grid episodes on YouTube. So with that, man, getting construction work done. I'm down on carpenters, so having to do a lot of the carpentry work and just do my book work and podcast stuff early mornings and evenings, which it's all working out. Just want to have more time to go hunting, that's for sure. But I'm going to take off this weekend and go for a backpack trip. It'll be a solo trip, which is really fun for me. So, yeah, I'll bring the camera and try to capture it, but solo backpacking in some good muley country, just watching the weather. Kind of tough to get to my access road if it's raining, and of course I've got rain in the forecast for Thursday, so just trying to problem solve, seeing if I'm going to bring my dirt bike back down there, or how exactly I'm going to get in, and try to watch how much rain there is. There's always variables to all these hunts, so anyways, just trying to work out that and get my work done here so I can get out of town. I was hoping to maybe leave tonight, but more likely I'll probably have to work tomorrow and then leave Thursday and go for like a 3-dayer. But should be fun. We're coming into late season mule deer, which I'm stoked about. New season rutting mule deer bucks. So yeah, going to get after it and see if we can't get one arrowed. So with that, thanks so much for the support, you guys. Thanks for the reviews on iTunes and Spotify. It really helps out the algorithm. And thanks for the shares on social media. I always try to reshare anybody that's sharing the podcast. And yeah, and also try to follow along with you guys and follow along on your adventures. So thank you. I appreciate it. And with that, that's a wrap. And I'll catch up with you guys next week.